Hello, Isian.
Yeah.
Welcome to our panel.
Welcome. Thank you for joining the panel. We have a new panelist, it seems.
You have to ask him to join, but maybe he didn't join. Okay, okay, sure. It's not started yet.
Hello? All right.
Testing, testing.
Hello, Jun. Welcome. We're just
Hello.
waiting for the audience to stream in. We're gonna start very shortly at 2 p.m. Let's see.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good. How are you?
All right.
It's like yesterday was probably much more worse in the sense that it's like rainy season around here in Brunei.
Okay.
And it's like super cloudy. But thankfully today it was like great and sunny.
Nice. And you guys are all indoors.
Yeah. So that's kind of unfortunate. We
Yeah.
have a sunny day, but then we're all in here.
But don't jinx it. You might never know.
Oh man.
Got clouds outside already.
But you know what? That's totally fine because right here today we have a great panel session. So you know that already offsets all the indoor that we're gonna be in here today.
Damn. All right. That was smooth, man.
Hey!
Because you're the star.
All right. Nice. Oh, okay. Hello, Nisi. Welcome. Can you hear us?
Hello. Hello.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning at 2 p.m. Yeah.
Always, always good morning. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, or as Theo like to say, good morning. This is a panel session called The Rise of Indie Games in Southeast Asia. This panel session is about the game industry that has witnessed a remarkable surge in popularity of indie games in recent years. To shed light on this exciting and ever evolving landscape, we are hosting a hybrid panel session during DevFest 2023 that explores the rise of indie games in Southeast Asia. This hybrid panel session brings together a diverse, experienced group of industry experts, each with unique insights into the indie game development scene in Southeast Asia. The aim of this panel is to foster an engaging and informative discussion that delves into the challenges, successes, and the promising future of indie game development in the region. First, I will introduce the moderator, Teo Peng. Teo Peng is a digital architect by trade and a game developer by heart. He is a self taught game programmer and a game designer with a passion to make games that move people the same way that it has moved him. And now, moving on to the panelists, we have three today. So, as you can see on the stage, on the right, we have Nissy. So Nissi is a Filipina multi-hyphenate who loves indie games and the people who makes them. She co-founded the official Philippine chapter of Google Play's Indie Games Group and is a woman in games ambassador, where she hopes to create safer spaces and equitable opportunities for Filipino indie developers. She also writes for Virtual Southeast Asia, covering regional game events and giving a platform for Southeast Asian indies to tell their stories and share their amazing games. When she's not building communities and championing marginalized narratives, she lovingly lets her friends drag her rank down in competitive Valorant. After Nissi is Jun Shen Chia from Xbox. Junshen is passionate and driven in game and tech. Junshen is a passionate and driven games and tech marketer with 13 years industry experience across a wide range of business, strategy, creative marketing, and product leadership roles. Obsessed and optimistic with everything tech and video games related, from design, business, marketing, to the communities built around these worlds. Professional skill set that he has are geared towards solving problems faced by consumers, game devs, and game businesses alike with effective and scalable solutions. Junshin has traveled to major trade shows worldwide like CES, E3, Gamescom, ChinaJoy, and GDC. Junshin has built an upper funnel engine for China and Asia Pacific gaming companies, designed a social app for League players, produced a Hollywood ad for Razer, won the Best CES award, held a personal photo exhibition, directed several short films, was a runner-up in the corporate team biking competition. Wow, is a massive book reader, and was last seen traveling to a new country annually pre-COVID. Personal life Personal life wise, North Star is to fulfill the dreams of video gamers everywhere. He likes to connect people to tech, and video games is the mission. Everybody, welcome Jun Shen Chia. And last but not least, we have one of our in-person panelists, Izzuddin Hussein. So, yay! So Izzuddin has been in the local gaming scene for more than 5 years and have been experiencing entrepreneurship since 2011. He is also an IT specialist with IT knowledge, skills, and experience developed over the span of 12 years. He is also an active trainer with 20 years of experience in conducting hundreds of classes, both IT and non IT related classes, workshops, and talks. Now, without further ado, I'd like to pass the floor off to Teo Jipeng. Teo, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for the introductions. Yeah, so today we have a great panel, Nissi, Jun, and Izzuddin. We're going to be talking about the rise of indie games in C. So thank you all for the time, taking the time out, coming here. Um, I think we'll just kind of like jump right into it. Like there's not that many people here, so I guess we can just be a bit more informal. But I think perhaps I do kind of want to perhaps I'll ask Nisi first, right? Then kind of bounce the question of Nisi to Jun to Izudin. So I think one of the first questions we want to ask, probably one of the bigger news that happened recently, right? With don't know if anyone here has kind of followed up the Games Award. Is actually there's an Indonesian game that kind of got nominated, right? Space of the Unbound, right? They got nominated for the Games Awards, which I think is like really cool, right? So, kind of following that development, I'm kind of curious to hear, like, what do you think were the key factors that contributed to growth of such a strong indie game development scene in Southeast Asia, including in Indonesia in recent years? What are your thoughts on this, Isa?
Um, okay, so I feel like there's like I'm gonna warm you up for June's like major insights. No, but like, honestly, I think there's specific also to Indonesia. There was a lot of government support that came in, and in turn that brought in a lot of investments like from overseas and like a lot of publishers coming in and picking up a lot of these games. And I'd also say more investment in like tech infrastructure. That's also a factor, and all the good work that the industry and community people are doing. Of course, like Indonesia wouldn't get that far just by uh, government funds, right? Someone has to create that into impactful programs. I've had the privilege of going to IGDX and I saw it firsthand. Like, there's really this otherworldly culture in Indonesia. They're really built different, I'd say. Um, but overall in Southeast Asia, I think there is that rise. So in the Philippines as well, the government is also picking up, and it really starts with like synergizing like all of the institutions available to you in that country. So yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I think that's kind of I think that's a very good summary. What about you, Jun Shen, if you have anything else to add on that?
Sure. First of all, shout out to Toge Productions and Mojicon Studios for Space of the Unbound. For everyone tuning in or in the audience, if you haven't voted for it yet, you better go do it. It's representing all of Southeast Asia, so we gotta show up when it counts. But as Nisi pointed out, it's really a whole bunch of different factors that really led to sort of the growth of, I would say, the growing success of the indie game scene in Southeast Asia. Government support and funding is a key one. Community, tech infrastructure, investments, things like that. But I would also say, actually, if we take a step back at a macro level, COVID actually brought the world closer together, believe it or not. Thanks to COVID, more people were forced online when the pandemic was at its peak, and as a result, more people were playing video games. In fact, we saw double-digit increases across all regions, with Asia Pac having almost a 50% increase in players just during the COVID 2020 period. And as a result of that, more people were trying more different types of games, and the appetite for interesting types of games like cozy narrative adventures was increasing over time. This was also the time when Steam had done an incredible job of making it easier for game developers to publish more of their games. In fact, in the last 3 years alone, there was over 40,000 games that were released on Steam, and that accounted for over 60% of all the total games being sold on Steam to date. So in 2023 alone, we're seeing an average of 40 games come out every single day on Steam. And so, Steam has really done an incredible job of making it easier for game developers to get their games out to people. And there was a strong appetite due to COVID for people to try even more games. Then, as Nisi mentioned, I think one thing that Southeast Asia is really great for is its ability to self-organize. Associations are popping up across multiple countries across the region, and figuring out ways to highlight and bring more attention to the games communities in their own markets. We've got events like IGDX, there's Level Up KL in Malaysia, there's Gamescom Asia in Singapore, there's PGDX in the Philippines, and then there's a new one also coming up at the start of next year in Philippines. Shout out to the organizers. And then, of course, there's Brunei DevFest and Sarawak GDC, amongst a lot of other smaller community-led events. So, self-organization has been the cornerstone of what makes Southeast Asia great, and that, along with all the other macroeconomic factors, has led to, I would say, the growth of Southeast Asia as an awesome region. The last thing I will add is that economic forces has led to like the rise in cost of living across the board, and as a result, actually, one interesting thing we've noticed is that a lot of publishers and investors are looking to the east and to Southeast Asia in particular to pick up more interesting games, given that a lot of the games in the west are becoming way more costly to make, and price to value ratio, I think, is still relatively stable in Southeast Asia, and so there's a lot more investment coming in from external forces into the region.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Juno. That is very, very insightful. Yeah. Kind of seeing how with COVID pushing digitalization to the forefront and now gaming has kind of benefited as a result of that. Izudin, what are your kind of extra thoughts on this?
I'm not so sure if I have any extras from what Nisi and Jun have mentioned. They actually covered everything else. But then again, I do agree when it comes to the COVID, it brought up people together because I remember we Pixelated released our one of our games during the COVID time. So basically, it was Nasi Katuk Please. So we were able to get about 10,000 downloads on both platform, iOS and Android. So I do believe that with the COVID, it does increase, it hastens the digitalization process. So basically now people are getting more thirsty for good contents, demanding better contents and everything and whatnot. So you can also a bit out of topic, if you look at TikTok as well, you can see the rise of TikTok because as a content provider, so you can see that people are demanding for good content that can entertain them for at a short period of time, a long period of time. So and then the good thing about indie developers is that we do not follow the formula of like a AAA game. So it means that we are able to create any content that based on whatever environment that you are in. So for example, like for us here in Pixelated, we try to create content related to Bruneian content. At the same time, we can see that some of those contents are relatable to Malaysia and Indonesia. So it means that it gives us a very good opportunity because of the similar kind of culture and everything to move from one region to another region, and then you can see a very impactful and fast growing a community as well at the same time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I think with like TikTok, I don't really use TikTok, you guys. I feel it's kind of weird. And now because of how TikTok is so proliferating with everything, it's also now in YouTube as well. It's like that's so goddamn annoying. It's like it's everywhere. But you do have to keep up the trends. Right? Like technology is changing so fast. And even it's kind of like speaking about technology right now, everyone's having a mobile phone. So I think it's kind of also a pretty good segue, if I do say so myself. I want to talk about mobile gaming as well, right? Mobile gaming is also on the rise within the in the region, right? We have like super powerhouses like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, kind of like dominating this whole market. But from what has been happening recently is there's actually been kind of an interest in um, more single player focus or much not really like traditional multiplayer live service mobile games, right? So that's kind of happening. So there has been kind of a strong rise of mobile gaming in the region. So I think kind of starting from you, Izudin, right? With Pixelator is an industry veteran within the mobile gaming development. How do you anticipate indie developers will have to adapt to this growing mobile gaming market in Southeast Asia?
Thank you. So again, when it comes to indie development, again, we are Pixelated. We are an indie development company here in Brunei. So basically, the good thing for being indie is that because of the small organization and everything, and then again, the good thing about being indie is that we're able to surprise people. So again, the expectation is not there and everything and whatnot. But the thing is, when you surprise people, that's where people will start to notice you, and then that's where you can see the growth and everything and whatnot. And then for me as an indie, I do believe mobile is the best platform to start off because like when it comes to mobile, the lifespan of a gaming it can be very short. Even the game time can be very short. And then sometimes people, people like to jump around between games and everything. That's why for me, I like to coin the. No, I'm not trying to say I coined the term. I like the term that's been coined, like toilet games, where people play games in the toilet while they're doing whatever business they're doing there. So basically, like that kind of things, allows a certain game developer to actually understand their market, or even test certain aspect of game mechanics before they can embed into their bigger projects and everything and whatnot. For example, if you look at Genshin Impact, as you mentioned earlier on, you can see, of course, Genshin Impact, the game is an RPG kind of approach and everything. But if you notice slowly, some of their events, they're starting to add smaller games, mini games, and everything and whatnot. Those mini games are not invented by Genshin Impact himself. So basically, some other games have actually started those kind of mini game styles and everything and whatnot. So, but again, with those mini games, you can generate certain interest and everything. So basically, you can say like for indie developers, you start small before you grow something big. You start small, gather enough experience and everything and whatnot, learn the market. You can see the trail. And then another thing with indie is that there's always the bandwagon kind of thing approach and everything. So basically, either you can follow the bandwagon, or you can try to divert, create a different direction to the bandwagon. In a way, it's like a reverse bandwagon, but again, the impact can be quite impactful as well. So again, for being an indie, especially in mobile, there's no certain rules of engagement. For example, I would like to say that. So, for example, like and then we can see as well in triple A's, some triple A's, they kind of in a way focus on apa, dorang punya, sorry, focusing on their top games. So basically, they just create a second game, the third game, and so on. So, but for indies, we are more flexible. So I think because of that, it allows indie developers to actually explore, and then to find the strength and understand the market that they're currently in.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's very interesting. So now I have to, if I'm stuck in the toilet for 1 hour, it's because of a toilet game. So June and Nisi, maybe I'll start with June first. Yeah, is there anything else you may want to add on this kind of how would indie developers adapt to the rise of mobile gaming market in the Southeast Asia region?
Yeah, sure. So, when I worked at Meta and on the mobile gaming business, there were really only two factors that we try to remind game developers of, right? One is UA, and the other being trends, right? And I think Izudin touched on trends quite a fair bit, like bandwagons, toilet games, mini games, things like that. Understanding the shifts and trends of the genres, what people are spending their time on mobile is going to be critical if you're developing for the space, because as with any game, there's only so much time and money. And so if you're pulling the attention away from a player from playing another game, what is it that you're doing that's going to be really interesting and engaging, that's keeping their attention? There's a reason why I think multiplayer is doing pretty well in the space these days. But we're also seeing increasingly extended play time on certain mobile games. TFT just launched not too long ago, and that's been doing really well in the space, as well as longer term games like Genshin and Honkai and things like that. So that's one aspect, and the other aspect is UA, understanding how to get the most out of platforms like Google or Facebook or anywhere else that you're serving your ads to, understanding what is driving the attention, and then also making really interesting creatives, because unfortunately it is a hit driven game. In general, being able to get the clicks and the conversions means that you have to create really attractive creatives. And some people go down the route of making something that's really high profile, while others do a lot of scientific testings and A/B tests to see what really drives conversion. So I would say those two are still fundamentals that still apply today. And yeah, I would say those are two that most people need to pay attention to.
Thank you. I think that's kind of very valuable information for us when we kind of want to dabble to mobile game development. What about you, Nisi? Any other thoughts you want to add on top of what Izudin and June has added?
So actually, I think there's like it's an interesting data set, right? Because there is definitely an exponential growth in like mobile gamers in Southeast Asia. We're one of the largest mobile gaming markets globally, but I've been noticing that a lot of indie developers have been straying away from developing for mobile. So just because like the threshold for success is kind of hard when it comes to mobile, so it is very much dominated by people who can afford to do UA, all these ads and stuff like that. And of course, in the first place, because you want people to keep coming to your game again and again, there's also the added cost of constant content and live ops. And I feel like not a lot of indies like should make like an MMO like for the first game, right? Like that's crazy. So yeah, but I think there's definitely a niche that indies can come into. I know Google Play released some data where casual games actually were a large driver of revenue growth this past year. And I know Google Play and Apple are trying to figure out how to introduce the premium experience, or like that premium buying experience on mobile, because on the mobile you kind of just think of in-app purchases, and it's not very natural to premium titles to do that. So yeah, they're trying to figure it out with subscriptions, Apple Arcade, stuff like that. But yeah, looking forward to how these platforms can come and support other types of games on mobile as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to like add on to that. Like, you raised such an amazing point. UA is so insanely high, expensive now. Marketing budgets are through the roof. And before I left Meta, though, it was a hot topic because really it's only the top end of mobile gaming companies, the Chinese ones, the ones from Japan and Korea, who can afford to spend insane amounts of money in order to drive continued attention amongst players in on these platforms. So certainly, even at events recently, the number of mobile devs who have pivoted entirely to PC console is so high, and it was simply because UA costs are really too insane. So really interesting to hear, that there are obviously things that Google must and Apple must do in order to continue to protect their, I would say, their pie in some regards, and figuring out how do you continue to drive like value for game developers who are thinking about making that switch. Yeah.
Thank you both. Yeah, I think that's very insightful. So there's kind of there's still quite a lot of barriers, at least for indie developers that want to enter the mobile gaming market. Um, so I think kind of maybe perhaps we kind of come back to Southeast Asia. Sorry, kind of coming back to developing indie games in Southeast Asia. And I believe June and Nisi, you've both kind of already touched base on this, and Izudin, sorry. I believe you three have already kind of touched base on this briefly when we start talking about the unique opportunities that is found with indie game development in Southeast Asia, especially with the recent rise of game development. What makes it so special, right? Like, what are the unique opportunities or challenges? What are the unique opportunities or challenges for indie game developers that face what do they face in Southeast Asia compared to other regions? Perhaps we can start with Nisi first.
Oh well, that's easy because like I came in late because like my internet ran out. So like I love Southeast Asian internet infrastructure. So that's a very I wouldn't say it's unique, but it's still something that is a big challenge when it comes to like a very tech focused product, right? Um, so yeah, that's definitely a big challenge for devs, especially with countries that don't even have dev kits. For example, it's a little hard to um, kind of accelerate that growth if you can't expand into, say, porting for console. Other challenges would probably be I'd actually say language barrier is like a huge issue across Southeast Asia. Even if somehow Brunei, Malaysia, Indonesia, they do speak like uh, a sort of similar language, but uh, there are a lot of nuances within their populace as well. So yeah, okay. So do we just do challenges first, so that we end like on a good note? um, I think challenges also is the accessibility of events and the kind of that structured element to create a pipeline for people who want to go into the industry or people who are career jumping. Um, like me. So I wouldn't actually have known a lot about a game dev if I didn't meet other people. Like for example, specific to my experience, I kind of was just winging it. Um, so I there would be times where I would be working on my game, and I'd be like I'd be working in 1 hour. Half of that hour, I'd be just freaking out and like thinking, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I don't have anyone to teach me like how to do narrative design or game design, and that's an issue because um, there aren't any game design mentors in the Philippines because we're so focused on outsourcing, which is, it's also a good thing because that brings in the business that keeps the lights on, creates jobs for people. But of course, yeah, how do you develop original IP if you don't really have like formal training for game design, that kind of thing. So education also an issue, that information knowledge gap. Yeah. Perhaps someone else would like to add more to like the perils of being a Southeast Asian developer.
Oh, this is not going to be a sad panel, guys. I swear. We have like lots of stuff. Jun Shen, do you have anything you want to add on top of that?
I think Nisi touched on like most of like the core like challenges. The one thing I think a lot about when it comes to the problems of our region, it comes down, in my opinion, to what I call privilege, right? Unfortunately, like video games still feels like very Western centric thing, right? Where a lot of the major high profile events are take place in Western countries. A lot of the opportunities and investments and the major sort of like awareness driving happens in the West, and so a lot of Southeast Asia and lots of parts of Asia are sort of like locked out of those opportunities just by sheer fact of geographical location, by our lack of spending power or lack of earning power comparative to some of these other markets, and has led to other things cropping up, like for instance international gaming companies setting up in the region that are taking talent away from development studios that are homegrown that could potentially have capitalized on those talents in order to grow their games in their studios. So there's a lot of like interconnected play between the nature of the industry today and what is happening in Southeast Asia. I would say um, the biggest thing that we need to overcome at the highest level is the growth of our youth. As far as the game development scene is concerned, we need to support early in career devs as best as we can because they are the lifeblood that continues the industry in our markets, and allows for us to then also make more interesting games over time. Because if we are heavy with veterans who at some point will need to retire or like step away from game devs or get burnt out, we will face a challenge where we're not going to see more games from the region.
Yeah, I think that speaks a lot. They always say like the youth are like the next generation leaders, or some
That's all you
cliche saying.
guys. You know?
Oh, that's a lot of pressure on us. Isudin, do you have like any other thoughts on like the challenges of unique challenges faced by indie game developers in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, I think my key points are quite similar to what Nisi has mentioned. Again, here in Brunei, there's no gaming company here and everything, like the triple A's or any well-known established game companies here. So basically, there's no reference or no guidance or no mentorships available. So even like for us here in Pixelated, whatever we do is basically we learn on the go. So basically, whatever we develop, whatever documentation we create, it's based on what we think that is suitable that can guide us to the future. So basically, we're not trying to recreate the world. So basically, we're rediscovering it accidentally by, oh, this is what we actually did. So basically, so when we like attend like all those those webinars and everything and whatnot. So basically, a webinar is quite a very important key source of knowledge for us, because without those webinars, so we will definitely be doing whatever we think that is right. But in fact, when it comes to some certain gaming standards, it's not the right way to do it. So basically, I think if there's only a more readily or easily available webinars, will definitely help to further growth, especially for like certain areas, like for example, like in Brunei, so maybe like Nassim mentioned, in the Philippines, there's not much of mentorships and no guidance and everything. So we try to look at for those, for the countries we have much more better, game communities and everything. So we may look into like Indonesia, or we may look into Korea, for them to share whatever knowledge that we can actually absorb and implement directly. So I think the same goes with any budding game developers here. So if you guys are very interested in to do game development, so again, although us we might not have created the perfect test bed or the created foundation for everyone to grow, but at least whatever knowledge that we have gathered and everything. For example, like we knew each other way more during the what was that in KL? Game actually game changer. So basically, from that on, we learn more and everything. So basically, from there, whatever knowledge that we gathered there, we can bring back, and then hopefully, by creating these kind of community events and everything, it's not that much, but at least it's something that can spin the wheel rather than making it fully halted. So that at least if the wheel keeps on moving, someone will pick it up, then they will learn, they will grow, then they will pass the wheel to someone else.
Yeah, I quite like that analogy, like how one person spins the wheel, then the next person spins it, it's even faster. And before you know it, you have like a race car, that's like speeding through down the track. Like, so kind of like twisting it now, right? We've been talking about the challenges, but as in business, when we have a problem statement, we have a solution. So kind of going back on this then, Izudin, I'd love to hear what are your thoughts. What are unique opportunities that indie game developers can like capitalize in the Southeast Asian region? What do you think?
I think one thing that we can really capitalize for, especially in Southeast Asia region, is our culture. Okay, like in Asia, our culture is we are very rich in cultures and everything, because like some of our cultures are very similar with our neighboring countries and everything whatnot. But at the same time, some cultures are very unique to that country. So I do believe by embedding culture to the games really make the game experience more unique. So I think like there's some I think there's an Indonesian horror game where they focus on their culture. There's also the horror games in Thailand, if I'm mistaken. They focus on the Thailand culture. So again, by adding culture, I think that's what makes the Southeast Asia is more unique, because our culture. Because if you look at our history back then, like certain countries, for example, like Indonesia or Malaysia, they're built up of smaller kingdoms and everything. And then one day when the Westerners came, then suddenly everyone is united. So again, like we can, like if we are willing to, dig deeper in our ancestral roots, so we can always find those very interesting and unique cultural where we can actually embed. And then, in fact, for me, why do I say culture? If you look at Japanese games, most of the games are actually based on culture. If you remember, like they always say about Tokugawa, Ieyasu, and everything. Those are like famous Japanese generals. And then if you look at Naruto, they always mention about the Japanese deities and everything. Tsukuyomi, Amaterasu, Susanoo. Those are the Japanese deities. So again, when it comes to Asian, for us, we are also rich in those. So I think that's one way I think to tap to differentiate us between Western games.
Okay, thank you. I think yeah, that kind of exemplifies. I think it's a very good summary of kind of insights of like unique opportunities that we can capitalize. Jun Shen, perhaps do you have anything else you want to add on top of that?
I'd love to hear Nisi first and her thoughts on this one.
Pass the baton.
Yeah.
Not the past.
You gotta throw the passing once in a while in the panel.
All right. Um. Okay. So I was like my brain was actually going to how the existence of like June's presence like
What?
in the gaming community. No, I'm going somewhere. No. So the whole reason why June is very active in Southeast Asian game industry is because big companies like Microsoft have started their global expansion department, and that's basically June's job to develop the not really develop per se, but like support the indie developers who are from Southeast Asia, and that's like one big step uh, towards like um, kind of moving forward on a regional level. So that's really great. Recognition is very important, and on top of that, capital coming in, being distributed is very important. unique opportunities. I'd also say that there's a very giving culture in Southeast Asia. Like based on like what I've based on the people that I've met at least, um, there's really that willingness to kind of come together and share and talk about the problems and what we can do together to solve them, that kind of thing. And of course, like initiatives like Virtual C, which are like volunteer run things as well, where it's driven by passion, really like this passion for Southeast Asian games. And it's not like we get sent press releases, right? Like we really hunt down games that are released from Southeast Asia. And recently, like we even got to meet the very first game company from Laos. So that's really awesome. So I think it's very much on the up and up, and that's thankful to like all the efforts of the community and industry organizers, and of course June, my king. So that's my segue. Your turn.
Oh my gosh. Well, first
Okay,
of
yeah.
all, thank you for those kind words. But to throw it back, like the only reason why, platforms like ours and others are taking more notice or are present even is because Southeast Asia has been helping themselves for a good part of the last few years, honestly. The only reason why, we are here now is because there's so many awesome games that are coming out from the region. And that had less to do with us and more to do with a self-organizing community. So just as you mentioned, Nisi, like really honestly, the most amazing thing that Southeast Asia has going for them is our ability to come together as a region, right? The kampong spirit. I always talk about that, and I really feel like that's the most important thing. Is because like for instance, Indonesia decided one day they had enough of playing second fiddle to the rest of the world and formed AGI as a way to drive more growth for their own games in their country. Similarly, SGGA did the same, and a lot of other associations and community groups and community leaders. Such as all of you here in Brunei doing this is really a shining example of that. And then, as Nisi mentioned, working with local and passionate creators and content people who are so deeply passionate about raising the profile of their own countries and amplifying the games that are coming out from here, participating in our Discord groups, like social media, amplifying and helping pitch in every little bit that everyone does to help raise the profile of an indie game from Southeast Asia goes an immensely long way. And it also not only has that added benefit, but it also encourages the developers who are very many of them doing this for the first time or like are just getting their feet wet in this world crazy world of like game development. So I think that's the most amazing thing. And so people who are coming into the industry who really want to get started, you just need to reach out and someone will have some awesome thing that you can get involved with.
Thank you, Jun Shen. I think that's a very great way of putting it. It's kind of like how game development itself is such a collaborative art form. And when we want to build a game development industry, we also have to be collaborative with other people. So yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, that kampong spirit. I'm just kind of looking at the time and I just realized, wow, it has passed. So we only have like 20 minutes left in this panel. So I think we're just going to ask like probably one more question before we get into the Q&A. We got really into it. So I'm kind of looking here. I think, okay, probably one of the most important questions that everyone always loves to ask. When you have to do when you want to start a company, you always have to look for funding. So I think we all know which question I'm going to ask. So I think I'm going to start with Izudin first. Yeah. So I'm going to start with Izudin first. So what are your thoughts on despite the very, very strong rise in game development in Southeast Asia, as a game developer yourself, what is your perspective? How has it been like for you on the availability of funding and investment throughout the region for indie game developers?
Okay, I think I'm gonna use this to pass this to Jun. I think it's best to hear from him first.
Great, guys.
I look from that, and I'll tend to stop on to what he has to say. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jun. I'm gonna pass this to you first.
No, it's all good. Well, okay, so we are one of many opportunities providing funding and support for game developers who are looking to bring their game to the world, right? Obviously, shameless plug, we've got several funding opportunities like the Developer Acceleration Program, which helps underrepresented game devs from underrepresented markets have the opportunity to bring their game to Xbox. And then, of course, we've obviously got things like Game Pass, which is a scale magnitudes bigger in terms of the amount of money that you can receive to bring your game to our subscription platform. What I always try to remind and urge all developers is that whether they're reaching out to us or any other potential investment opportunities, is that really understand what it is that they're offering, in what way are they offering, in what is it that you can bring to the table. The one thing I realize is that a lot of developers like to go for a shotgun approach. They'll just spam every single one with every single chance they've got. And while that may work in your favor, sometimes I think a more fine-tuned approach would benefit you better. For instance, the truth is, yes, culture is a strong superpower of ours, but the amount of food-based games I've seen in the last 6 months alone means that maybe you got to find a thing that makes your food game stand out from that one that's also got nasi lemak and kway teow and in everything in it. Sorry, William. Shout out to Kway. But like the thing is, it's great that we are tapping into our culture, and it's great that we're tapping into what makes our games stand out in a unique way. But at the end of the day, it's also an incredibly competitive space, and there's only so much money that can go around. So I would say figure out what is the angle that you're going for, and sometimes some certain publishers and partners are offering opportunities that are a little different, and you got to find a way that works for you. Then the second thing, and then this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll let someone else speak, is find what is the right approach to your sustainability as a studio. Sometimes you can go all out and get as much money as you can, but you might be giving everything away as a result. Sometimes it's more important that you remain independent and find ways of keeping yourself afloat, rather than relying on pots of money that require you to participate in ways that you may not be comfortable or may not be ready to do so. Obviously, I see a lot of studios in the region do a lot of outsourcing work or take a lot of work on the side. And while that doesn't necessarily mean it's the most pleasant thing to be doing with your time, and which you could spend on making the game that you care very strongly about, it's almost liberating because you don't have to worry about outside external forces. So I would say think a lot about that. And if you're just starting out, ask for advice and help from people who have successfully managed to get funding from spaces and places that you're looking at.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's very insightful. I'm gonna have to cut it short here, unfortunately, because I'm kind of looking at the time. We all have like 15 minutes left, so I think it's best to kind of pass the stage back to the audience now. If the audience has any questions and questions for us to answer. Sorry. Yeah, I hope that's okay, Nisi, Jun, and Izudin. So I'd like to ask the audience, do any of you have any questions? We'll hand the mic over to your side. Or perhaps on the online audience, is there any questions? No questions? None for these handsome gentlemen and beautiful ladies here. Oh, yes, that man in the green shirt. Can we hand the mic over to, yes, please. Oh. Hold on, technical issues. Oh. Oh, it's good now.
Hello. Okay, so question for Anissa. How did you guys got your first funding? Thank you.
Good question. 'Cause- we don't have like our first party. I'm so sorry. Maybe I should talk about the YC Game Changers thing instead, because that did get funded. So for context, I do have my own studio. It's called Psychic City Games, but we have been looking for funding for our project, but we kind of ended up deciding not to pursue that, like exactly like what June was talking about earlier. Um, so yeah, but with the YC Game Changers one, that's where I met Steventus and Izudin, and also Kiran and Ying in the back. Uh, so we joined that game jam. So it's programs like this that give you that opportunity to actually get funding and like get something out. So we joined that game jam. They flew us into KL. We learned from from really good mentors. Then we pitched. After like 2 days of working on a prototype, then they gave us funding for like 3 months to finish the game. And then after that, we flew back again to present it at Level Up KL. So that's definitely one option. Those programs like that, but others. Before, like when we were looking for funding for my studio, we were just kind of going around um, exhibiting our games at trade shows, which is not always like an option for a lot of people. But we did want to invest in that. I think also because we wanted to, but like we saw the value in being present and like making, like expanding our network and making these connections. Because even if we don't have a game out, I actually have people like associating me with my studio still. So yeah, that's an important thing. And there are always usually like scouts from publishers who come to these events, whose job it is to play every single game on that floor, so that they can find something that they can possibly look at. And another cool thing is, well, at least the publishers in Southeast Asia that I've met, they, if something does not fit like for their portfolio, they tend to pass it around. So this is like one cool thing that I saw at PGDX, Philippine Game Dev Expo. So this happened like in August, like in the Philippines. So they all collated the pitch decks and the demos of everyone exhibiting, and they sent it to a publisher, and he was willing to send it around to all of his friends as a pool that people could like look at, even if they didn't get to go to that event, right? So yeah, so those are options. There are also incubators around. Shout out to the Iterative Collective. Let's go. So they're very cool people. On top of funding, they give you mentorship and support you with release, like a lot of publishing capacities. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I'm so sorry. It was technically not applicable to me.
I got the A-OK from the audience. He says this, he
Ah,
gives a thumbs up. So I'm
very
gonna,
cool. Thank you.
yeah. Any other questions from the audience, from the floor, or from the online audience?
I've got a question.
Oh,
yes.
I mean, I want to ask the folks in the audience and all you guys moderating this. What do you guys need more of in Brunei? I'd love to hear about that.
All right. Who wants to represent the entire Bruneian game development industry, guys?
don't say like that, bro.
Then I have to excuse myself. You'll be
no, stay. What does Brunei need more of? What do you think, is it? As a fellow Bruneian game developer, I mean, you don't have to represent all of the game development industry, right? Like, we don't need to put all
Just
that
one of my
pressure.
personal experience and everything.
But
So I
yeah.
think just to answer your question, Jim. So basically, for in Brunei, the thing what we lack is I would say the exposure. Because like myself, I attended Tokyo Game Show twice just to see where we are and everything. Uh, I have to say that we are behind because when it comes to the technology, that all the games or the concept and everything that I did manage to go to the indie section, so I can see the games there are really well refined and everything. So basically, we really lack the mentorship and guidance. Even honestly speaking, as a representative of Pixelated, that is what we are lacking.
Okay.
Because like do games is honestly how I just teach my team is that okay, we visualize how the end game is. Doesn't matter how we do it, as long we reach to the end of the end of the. So I think we definitely, I'm not so sure, we might definitely cut some corners and everything and whatnot. Aside from the funding, but I would say the mentorship and the guidance is the core important thing that we truly lacks.
That's
And
interesting.
then after that would be the funnel. So basically, how and where, or the best platform should we go for? For example, like if we create these kind of games, is it more? Will it be better to publish it on the mobile or to be better on the PC or console and everything? Yeah. That I would say that is what we really lack here in Brunei.
Got
I
it.
think those are my thoughts. Thank you, Izudin, for sharing. Um, Anyone else want to share their thoughts on kind of like the Bruneian game development industry scene? Like, what would Brunei need more of? Or otherwise, we can just kind of jump to another question as well. We have like 7 minutes left, so that's like time for one more question. It's a beautiful day, isn't it, Izudin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's,
Oh, is that the question?
We're gonna feel the Q&A section. Well, I mean, okay, if there's some more questions, then I guess we can kind of call it early, right? So we're kind of like 5 minutes, 5 minutes to 3. And with that, I'm just gonna say, moderator aside, right now, this is Steven speaking. Anissa, Jun Shen, big fan of what you both do. So thank you seriously for like taking the time to come here, especially from like kind of personally knowing you both. You both must lead very busy lives. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So thank you so much, both of you, and thank you, Isidin, as well. Right. You also kind of lead a industry, and you're basically uh, us, but the generation before that. So you've started this movement, and I hope we, the new generation, can kind of carry on that momentum. And who knows, 10 years in the future, Brunei is going to be the next big talent pool hub for like game development. But fingers crossed, right, at this point. So, but yeah, once again, thank you all to all the panelists. Can we give a round of applause for them for the amazing panel? And with that, I'd like to conclude the session. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
And thank
Thank you for inviting us.
Take care. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.
I have no